To begin, make a slip knot, and then chain 35. For this project, I used Feels Like Bliss yarn in the color Sand Dollar, but for demonstration purposes, I'll be using a different yarn so it's easier to see the stitches. Next, make a slip stitch into the first chain to join the round. Into that same stitch, make a single crochet. Add a stitch marker in this first single crochet to mark the start of the round. Before continuing, make sure to try the sleeve on your cup to make sure it fits. Once you've made sure the cup sleeve fits properly, continue by making single crochets into the rest of the chains. Now that we're back at the start, remove the stitch marker and make a single crochet into that first stitch to start round 2. Don't forget to mark the start of every round with a stitch marker. Continue by making single crochets in every stitch for the rest of the round. I decided to make 10 rounds of single crochet in total, but you may want to add more or less depending on the yarn you're using. Once you've finished the last round, pull the yarn long, cut it, and weave in the end neatly. In order to do this, I'm going to start by threading the tail through a yarn needle. Then, remove the stitch marker that was in the first stitch of the round. We'll skip that first stitch and then into the second one, pull the yarn tail from front to back under both loops. Then, weave the tail through the back loop only of the last stitch of the round. This is the same stitch where our yarn tail starts. Once you've done that, just weave in the rest of the tail through the wrong side of the work. Next, we'll add on the ears. When you make them, you'll use black yarn, but for demonstration purposes, I'll be using this light gray yarn. For the first ear, start by putting your crochet hook under both loops of one of the stitches at the front of the work. Then, take your working yarn, pull up a loop, and chain 1. Into that same stitch, make a single crochet. Try to cover the yarn tail as you're doing this. Next, make a single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. To start the next row, chain 1, turn, and then make 3 single crochets. For row 3, start by making an increase, so that's 2 single crochets into the same stitch. Next, make 1 single crochet, and finish off by making 1 increase. Rows 4 and 5 will just be single crochet. For row 6, start off by making a decrease. To do this, go into the first stitch and pull up a loop. Then, go into the next stitch and pull up another loop. Yarn over and pull through all of the loops on your hook, and there's your decrease. Continue by making 1 single crochet, followed by 1 decrease. Make 3 single crochets for row 7. For row 8, start off by making 1 decrease and then 1 single crochet. For the last row, just make 1 decrease. To finish off, chain 1, pull the yarn long, cut it, and weave in the end on the wrong side of the work. For the second ear, start by counting 9 stitches to the right from the first ear. Put your crochet hook under both loops of the 9th stitch, then pull up a loop and chain 1. Into that same stitch, make a single crochet. Continue by making a single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches, making sure to hide the yarn tail as you're doing this. Then, just repeat the steps for rows 2 through 7 just like we did for the first ear. For row 8, we'll make a slight adjustment by making the single crochet first, followed by a decrease. For row 9, just make 1 decrease. Like we did last time, finish off by pulling the yarn long, cutting it, and weaving in the tail end through the wrong side of the work. Let's continue by making the mask. Start by making a slip knot, and then chain 5. Starting from the second back bump from the hook, make 1 increase. So that's 2 single crochets into the same back bump. Place a stitch marker into the first stitch of the round. To continue, make a single crochet into each of the next 2 bumps, and then make an increase in the last bump. Then, into the other side of the chains, make 4 single crochets. For the next round, we'll just make an increase in every single stitch. Don't forget to mark the start of each round with your stitch marker. For round 3, we'll do a pattern of 1 single crochet, followed by 1 increase. Continue this pattern all the way around. For round 4, just make a single crochet in every stitch. After you've made the last single crochet of round 4, chain 5. Starting from the second back bump from the hook, make a single crochet into each back bump. This will make the first horn. After that, remove the stitch marker and make one single crochet into that first stitch. Continue by making 5 more single crochets. We'll make the second horn by repeating the same steps we did for the first one. Chain 5, single crochet 4 into the back bumps, and make a single crochet into the next available stitch. Now that we're done, pull the yarn long, cut it, and weave in the end to create a nice clean edge like we did earlier with the sleeve. Count 2 stitches over and pull the yarn from front to back under both loops. Then, in the stitch where the yarn tail starts, pull the tail through the back loop only. Once that's done, weave in the remaining tail end through the back of the work. Let's move on to the details of the mask. Start by sketching them out on a piece of paper. If you'd like, you can screenshot this and use it as a reference. After that, take a pen and outline the half of the sketch that you think looks the best. Once you're done, it'll look something like this. Now we'll take a piece of light orange felt and fold it in half. Line up the middle of the sketch with the fold. Use a pin to secure the sketch to the felt, as this will make it easier to cut out afterwards. Cut away the half of the sketch that you don't need, and then cut out the piece of felt using the sketch as a guide. This can be a bit tricky, so take as much time as you need. Remove the pin if it gets in the way. Save this larger diamond-shaped piece as we'll be using it later. Now that we've finished cutting out the larger detail, take the diamond-shaped piece from earlier and make it a bit smaller. Then, cut out a diamond-shaped hole in the center. Once you've finished all the details, glue them onto the mask with fabric glue. Follow the directions on the bottle to see how long you have to leave it to dry. For mine, I had to set it flat for 72 hours. Now onto the last step. Take a sewing needle and white thread and sew the mask onto the sleeve. Once you've finished sewing on the mask, your Hilitrail cup sleeve is complete. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you have any questions at all, please leave them in the comments down below and I'll do my best to get back to you as soon as I can. If you liked this video, you might also enjoy my Guoba cup sleeve and my Butao coaster tutorials. I think all three look super cute together as a set and would be a great gift for any Genshin Impact player. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next video.